Hello, everyone. My name is Gus.
Hi, I'm Woody.
Today we have a recommendation of an incident that happened in the Galapagos, a place I've never been. I want to go to the Galapagos.
Amazing. I have. And I've talked to you about it before. There's a lot of videos out on it right now as well. It's amazing. Just the diversity of life because it's pretty tricky diving. It's high flow and it's cold. And there's like different currents coming from different oceans, which I guess brings so much nutrients.
Did you get to see any hammerheads?
I saw so many that you are literally engulfed. So you're in the middle and you can't see through the Galapagos hammerheads. They're smaller. They're called Galapagos hammerheads.
Yeah.
And you see species that, frankly, you would never see anywhere else, literally like the marine iguana. There's only one iguana known in the world that actually goes underwater. They've adapted to eat the algae. And all of a sudden you're diving and you see an iguana. I'm like, what? You're a land animal and he's underwater. Right next to you eating, does not care about you one bit. He's just eating. And then they go back out and they spit out the salt on the land. You see salt like flying out of their nose, right? They've learned, they've adapted.
Amazing.
And that was the only place in the world where, for me at least, that I saw mola mola. My only one and only sighting of one.
Sunfish.
I thought
Nice.
a lamb and an elephant and a giraffe and a shark and a whale all somehow. It's
Bucket
the
list.
worst, weirdest animal you've ever seen.
Yeah, no. Those are insane. And Galapagos obviously famous because of Charles Darwin. Went there and was inspired and wrote the theory of evolution
And you dive what's called Darwin's Arch, which is a point, so the
Which fell
current's
apart.
ripping, and I was there when it was still an arch.
Yeah.
And it fell. And there were actually divers in a boat when it fell that were
Really?
about to go in.
Oh,
Can you
snap.
imagine? But now it's the structure's all underwater. And
Since you're an expert in the Galapagos, you remember the name of the boat Charles Darwin went on to the Galapagos? It's a
do I happen to remember the name of the
very
boat?
famous ship.
Oh, that one?
Yeah. What's
I
the
think it
name?
was a Mayflower. I could be wrong. That one's, I throw that one out a lot. It was a Mayflower was used for, I think. They reused it.
It's the Beagle. The Beagle is the name.
Oh, it's good that you knew
ship.
that. Why'd you know
Of
that?
course. Everybody knows that. All right.
Is this no, you don't, I don't even want to ask if you have a PhD in some kind of historical
You don't have to. Everybody
Darwinism.
knows. Everybody knows. You don't have to say it. But anyway, here we have something that happened in the Galapagos. We haven't seen it. Let's see what happened.
On February 12, 2010, a group of divers made their way to the Galapagos Islands for a diving adventure. What was
Oh, no. Here we go. I know what you're going to say, but go ahead.
We just started, and the guy sounds like a robot. Like, what is this? Why does everything have to be AI? People are going to now hammer us in the comments. You guys always react to AI.
Hard to get around it.
The reality is we don't know what we're reacting to. This is literally blind reactions. And I know that some of you post and say, you're doing it wrong. You should watch the video first and then do the reaction. Well, then you start your own channel and do it because we like blind reactions.
Exactly.
Like
what?
that's what we do.
We're not going to do that.
Some of them will be AI. Some of them will be absolute garbage. Some of them will be amazing. We never know. You guys make the recommendations. We press play. We talk. We don't plan these. So, but anyway, that was just the first thing I noticed.
supposed to be an amazing adventure turned into a tragedy when one of the divers was overpowered by strong currents and
You
went
talked about the
missing.
currents.
And they can be down currents there.
Yeah.
Your bubbles are going down. Sometimes in the Galapagos, you breathe.
The Galapagos Islands are an archipelago of volcanic islands.
Okay.
The islands are located 906 kilometers west of continental Ecuador.
Yeah.
In 1535, Fray Tomas de Berlanga, the Bishop of Panama, was the first to discover these islands while he was traveling to Peru to settle a dispute between Francisco
Remember that?
Pizarro
He got off
and
track.
Diego
Your
de
PhD study,
Almagro.
remember
When he
Berlanga?
got back to the Spanish Empire, he told them about his new
By the way, those turtles are called Galapagos turtles,
Yeah.
and their neck is extra long. You know why? Because this is what they claim. The cactus kept growing higher and higher Somehow they told us this and evolved to avoid being just eaten by the. How did the cactus know to grow taller to not get eaten by the turtles? I'm just saying, I didn't question that when I was there, but that's what
I
they
don't think
told
that's
us.
how evolution works. Like the
It's not-
cactus knows.
you don't think it
and
evolved?
makes that conscious
I know,
decision.
they
to-
told us that. And by the way, when they
Anyway.
mentioned Ecuador, I still have some stomach issues.
For-
I'm just saying, I had special. I ate the street food. What looked to be
Changed
so
you forever.
delicious.
Why would you
the
do
next
that?
day? Let's just say waterfall.
You know,
I was destroyed.
when I started traveling for work, I think it was like 2008 or whatever. I started traveling internationally for work. I try to think of something to do, like a tradition. Like every new country I go to, I want to do this in. And I decided to do street food. I'm going to try the local street food in every country I go. Sounds pretty easy. First country they sent me to, Colombia. Easy. Amazing street food. Like Colombian hot dogs. Like it was great. Then I went to Turkey, I think. And I, against my best judgment, I'm like, I'm going to try. I ate like a fish sandwich or something in Turkey. It was gambling at that point. Third country they sent me to, India. Tradition over. That's it.
Can't.
That
You
is
just
it.
can't.
Can't do it. If you're Indian and you have those enzymes or whatever, I get it. It's not. But I knew for me, I would have gone to the hospital. And I was in India for 2 weeks. I couldn't risk it.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Discovery and the animals that were living on the islands. This group of islands was given the name Insular de los Galapagos, meaning islands of the tortoises.
He talks Spanish like you.
In 1684, they made the first
Perfect.
sketch map of the islands under the direction of pirate Ambrose Cowley. He furthermore named each island after some of his fellow pirates. Others were named after English
amazing
royalty and noblemen. In
Look
1832,
at that.
the newly independent Republic of Ecuador
Is that really Galapagos? Like there's so many boats there. And it's so far from Ecuador that I find hard to believe those little boats are out there in the Galapagos. This seems like a video of some other island.
I don't know.
I've never been, so I can't tell.
Beautiful. I could tell you that.
If Darwin's Ark was in the background, I would be like, okay, that's Galapagos. But this looks like the Bahamas, to be honest. Like it doesn't look like Galapagos at all.
took the islands from Spanish ownership and later renamed those islands with new Spanish names. Divers often visit the Galapagos Islands for their dive adventures. On
Obviously.
February 11, 2010,
That's what
some
I was
groups
on.
of divers aboard the Galapagos
I was on
Aggressor
that.
2
The
were
Aggressor?
going for a scuba
Yeah.
diving adventure in the Galapagos
Aggressor.
Islands.
I was on that
Among
boat.
them were Eloise Gale, Denise Freyu, and 2 dive masters. Eloise Gale was a 23-year-old kindergarten teacher from Galveston, Texas, and New York. She was a lover of diving sports. The divers previously met at the baggage pickup area at the San Cristobal Island Airport before
Yeah.
they boarded Galapagos Aggressor 2. Eloise
nice
and
airport.
Denise became attached almost immediately after they met because they were the only 2 women without an accompanist. Besides, they soon realized they were both from Texas. They were given a short briefing about their intended dive adventure. For about 20 minutes, all of them had a checkout dive to test and get familiar with their equipment, only to a depth of less than 20 feet. Many of them, Eloise included, had difficulties getting the exact weight needed for her neutral buoyancy. They were wearing heavy wetsuits in high salt water. Their checkout dive went well. The following day, February 12th, at about 6:30 a.m. after taking their breakfast, Jamie, one of the dive masters, had a meeting with all the divers. He explained to them the things they needed to know about the actual dive they were about to start, though that was a very short briefing. He used a map drawn on a whiteboard to show them their dive plan,
Which is
and
common.
what the dive site looks like. Jamie instructed them not to go beyond 90 feet, saying that the visibility was about 60 feet. They were also informed that there can be strong currents inside the Galapagos waters, and the current moves in different directions. Due to
Told
this
you.
strong current, they were advised not to stay in the water for more than an hour. Jamie also taught
Very
them how to
standard.
surface carefully around
Oh,
the
that is
pangas
Darwin.
and how to return
Darwin's
from the
arch.
water into the panga. Pangas are inflatable motorized
That's
rubber
Miami.
boats, which are used for shore excursions.
And those are not pangas. That's a full-on boat. It's the pangas are like these tiny boats that basically they use to deploy from the main boat. And when you saw the picture where Woody was saying that's the boat I was in, you can see the panga on the side. It's like attached to the boat.
Excursions and the exploration of coastlines. John and Kimberly, 2 other divers of the group, were astonished by the briefing. They expected it to be longer than it was because it was their first actual dive after the checkout dives they
that explains it, because for us who have been diving with a ton of boats in a ton of different places, a short briefing with a whiteboard telling you that you're going to go down to this depth with this type of visibility, what currents to expect for up to an hour is standard. That's like normal, typical briefing. Like if you go diving in West Palm Beach, what does that briefing look like?
Exactly that. They flip
Exactly
down the whiteboard. And it's very good and very helpful.
They do a good job
They
drawing.
really, really do.
But it's enough. It's enough for you to do a safe dive. Like you don't need a presentation in PowerPoint and videos and all this detailed stuff. Like they thought it would be better perhaps because they're new divers. That's what they're saying. This is the first dive in the Galapagos. Sounds a little too advanced for a brand new diver. This is the first dive after their checkout dives. You don't think it's a little too advanced for brand new divers?
It's pretty advanced diving there. I mean, for a brand new diver, it's pretty advanced. It's not that it's that deep. I told you, it's the currents.
Yeah.
And it can
the conditions,
and
cold
it can
water,
get cold, man. It's awesome. But yeah.
Yeah, it could be challenging.
I don't want to
for new
judge
divers.
it because I don't know all the facts or where they dove. I mean, there are new divers in Galapagos.
Of
It
course,
happens all the time.
People get certified to go there,
And you're fine. So
Yeah.
I don't want to say, oh, God, you can't go there if you're super advanced. That's just not. No, but I mean, you definitely don't want to leave that guide probably on your first couple of dives.
Yeah, but it's definitely recommended that you get some practice in not as challenging conditions before you go to the Galapagos if you can.
And practice in the protection, right? Because you're either going to be in a thicker wetsuit or you're going to be in a dry suit. So you need to adjust or practice in that maybe before you go there because you may need more. You probably are going to need more weight.
Sure.
Initially had the previous day. After the briefing, the divers were divided into two groups. Eloise,
Standard.
Kimberly, John, and 4 other divers were in the same group, using the same boat. Their group also included Patricio, one of the dive masters, and the Panga driver. The dive master didn't check their diving equipment before they entered the boats, so Kimberly assumed that proper briefing and safety check would be done when they got inside the Panga. However, nothing was done when they got into the boats. On their arrival at the dive spot, they all push off backward into the water at the same time, as instructed by Patricio, their team dive master. This was done because the Panga will toss around those left in it if they don't enter the water at the same time. Kimberly and John were both conscious of their regulators, so they kept an eye on them to ensure they were on before the dive started. John immediately sought out his wife Kimberly as they entered the water, so they both gave the OK sign to each other. Dive Master Patricio and others were about 20 feet away from Kimberly and John. John never thought of Eloise the moment they all started diving. His focus was getting closer to his buddy Kimberly. During their descent, Patricio was always ahead of Kimberly and John in the depths. Also, Patricia led the team beyond the 90-foot limit that Jamie had instructed them earlier not to pass. As John and Kimberly continued following the other members of the team, they began to struggle with the current. John was almost hyperventilating, but he slowed down his descent the moment he noticed this problem. When it got to the 9-minute mark, Patricio had already gotten close to the island, so he signaled to them to hold the sloping bottom of the island firmly and move up against the current. Kimberly and John were still struggling with their stability in the water due to the strong current against them.
Can you use gloves in the Galapagos? Do you remember?
I can't remember.
Because it would be hard to pull, especially if it's coral. You can cut yourself big time.
What I do remember is they're incredibly protective of their environment there.
Yeah.
And I remember having unbelievable briefings on Aggressor.
Yeah.
Super detailed. And they were with us and showed us stuff. So I'm not sure what went on here, but it was not like that for me.
Yeah, but it's okay if you're expecting better. Like that's a personal choice. But I assume, I mean, that's what these guys do for a living. They did a good job, just like usual. But what I was saying about the gloves is, depending on where you go, some countries and some areas in some countries will not allow gloves. They're illegal. You cannot dive with gloves. And they do it for a variety of reasons, but the one reason that you hear the most is that they do it so you don't touch anything.
Right.
They are saying if you don't have gloves, then you're more hesitant to like grab stuff, touch the coral, mess with things. So they don't allow you to have gloves.
Yeah. In the Galapagos, though, there are some dives where you're going to be planted on
You're
the
reef
bottom.
hooking, right?
and holding on even to the rocks. Like when you watch the marine iguanas eating the algae, you just sit there. You have to hold on.
Right.
You will not be able, you're just going to get blown
So they
away.
probably allow gloves
I just
in the
can't remember.
Galapagos.
I'm sorry. I really can't.
Yeah, and there are ways to hang on that at least I learned in cave diving, where you are holding with your palm and not with your fingers to prevent getting caught, or at least caught bad and deeper. And we call those genie fingers. I don't know if you remember from training and from diving a genie, because a genie, you pull a lot from the rocks. And what you do is, with your inexperience, you're using your fingers like you would use if you were climbing or whatever. And then your fingers are destroyed and they hurt for days. They burn everything you touch. So you learn how to hold with your palm, like cup. I don't know how to call it, but you cup and your fingers are kind of just there, but you're not holding hard. So anyway, you could do that also if you have to hang on, but the best thing would be to wear gloves if they're legal to use.
Kimberly remembered that the last time she saw Eloise was around the 3 to 7 minute mark, when Eloise was still descending into the deep water. By the time Kimberly and John were able to hold on to some rocks to get some stability on the island, they discovered that Eloise wasn't with the rest of them. But they saw Patricio and Denise talking about a missing diver. At this point, Kimberly and John had less than 2,000 psi of air in their tanks.
That's a lot.
Patricio
It's
instructed
2/3.
Denise to stay with the rest of the divers hanging on the rocks, as he would go in search of Eloise. When Kimberly and John noticed that they were getting low on air, they signaled to the second dive master, Jamie, who asked them to start their ascent. John held Kimberly tightly so that they would not get separated from the effect of the strong current, and they both surfaced at the 30-minute mark. On getting to the surface, they thought Eloise would have been there, but they didn't find her there. They searched for her on the surface, but couldn't find her. Other divers came to the surface too, and Patricio was in a panga still searching for Eloise. John was concerned about
Terrible
Eloise
feeling.
because he knew she might have had difficulties fighting against the strong current when she got separated from them. Eloise had a diver's flag with her, so she could easily be visible at the surface. This made John and Kimberly hope that they would soon find her. They kept searching the surface for the flag from the aggressor and the pangas. At some point, Patricio and
See it
Jamie
now?
entered-
That's Darwin's Arch now.
That's Darwin's Arch now. So the arch fell off, and now, what is it, Darwin's Pillars? Is that what they
think
rename
so.
him to?
But the
Yeah.
current there, you can almost kind of see it. Look, it's just ripping, right? Because all these flows are coming and hitting those rocks. It's very strong. But the diving,
It's amazing.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, I feel bad. What they said before, like they looked and they had 2,000 psi of airlift. That's 2/3 of your air. That's a lot of air.
I'm really wondering if they know what happened. I'm sure they're going to say what happened. Did she get trapped on something?
Let's see.
the water again in search of Eloise, but still couldn't find her. Some boats and the Ecuadorian Coast Guard also joined in searching for Eloise, but all to no avail. After about 4 hours of searching the surface for Eloise, the remaining divers returned to the main dive site. But Denise and Patricio returned to the water with an extra air tank in search of Eloise. They descended to the place where Denise last saw Eloise, but the current there was very strong. They allowed themselves to be driven by the current to wherever it would take them. They assumed that was what was likely to have happened to Eloise, too.
That's smart.
Upon reaching 150 feet, Denise saw Eloise from a distance. She was at 168 feet in the depth. Eloise was lying in the fetal position. Her eyes were closed, and she was calm and restful. Her mask was no longer on her, and her regulator was out of her mouth. When they brought her to the surface, they checked her air tank and found that it still had 2,000 psi of air. Her equipment was working perfectly well, but Denise wasn't sure if
Maybe
Eloise's
narcosis.
2 fins were on her. All she knew was that one of the fins was removed when they were bringing her body to the surface. When checked, Eloise's lungs didn't seem to have any water in them. What could have happened to Eloise? It was believed that Eloise died within a short time frame, around the 6 to 9 minute mark of the dive. This was based on the last time she was seen by Kimberly, and the amount of air remaining in her cylinder after her body was recovered suggested that she died earlier than they thought.
Okay, this is weird. So let's theorize here of what happened. So let's say we go down and we find somebody who has drowned with still 2,000 psi of air. So that's 2/3 of your tank.
At that depth.
At that depth, with no water in your lungs. What?
I don't know about that part, but this smells to me like narcosis. Like you're just out of it, man. I mean, you're just out of your mind.
But how can you not have water in your lungs?
I
Is
don't
there
know.
is there something isn't there something like on your trach? I know people think I'm a doctor. I'm not. But isn't there something in your trachea or something that like locks up so
I've had it
doesn't
happen.
it doesn't allow water in?
I've had it
Is
happen.
that am I on the right track with this?
I have had that happen. I've talked about it on the show before, where I've and a little water pellet shot in, and that thing starts with an L,
reflex?
that L thing.
The larynx?
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
Larynx?
Venezuelan talk. That one shuts down to
Yeah.
prevent exactly what you're saying. Like, no, we're not letting water in. You're like, and if that ever happens to you, just wait. Don't freak.
Yeah.
And it starts to open back up. But I feel like
I
if
feel like
this
she just
happened to
got slammed
her at
into a wall.
160 feet or more, you're just super narked, and she just like was relaxed. Remember it said like she seemed calm and relaxed, and she was just like, oh, I'm just not going to breathe anymore. I don't know.
Either that or
It's
maybe the current like smash her head into the wall or something and make the regulator come
I
out.
guess you would see her head with a big bruise or something.
Well, let's see if they talk about it in the video. But man, this is so strange. The no water in the lungs just throws me off. I don't know what that could. Just leave a comment below and explain, because we're reacting to this blind. We're not gonna Wikipedia this thing.
It was kind of a relief for the rest of the divers that Denise was able to find her body at the bottom of the ocean, because they were haunted by the thought that Eloise might have been waiting for them to rescue her, but they couldn't. The recovery went smoothly as her body was brought back to the surface and handed over to Ecuadorian officials. Eloise will forever be missed by her loving family and friends. There are a few things that could have prevented this dive accident from occurring if they were taken into consideration. First, the divers should have been given a more detailed dive briefing on what they were likely to face while diving. Besides, one of the dive masters, Patricio, should have made the descent slow enough to prevent all the divers from spreading out as they did. They would have avoided the heavy current if they didn't go too deep. Lastly, Patricio shouldn't have went beyond.
I'm confused on that. Let me tell you
Face
why.
all over the
Okay,
place.
I'm confused on you would have avoided the heavy current if you didn't go too deep. And typically, it's exactly the opposite.
Right.
The current is stronger as you move towards the surface. And I remember at the Galapagos, that was the case. And they would actually say, let's get down quickly in our briefings in the Galapagos in many places
Yep.
to get out of the strong current. So I don't know. That's an AI.
But the other thing is, this accident could have been, prevented if they did a better briefing. Like, what? To see what to expect. The thing that I saw earlier, and I didn't make a comment, but it kind of got in my head, was if you go back and rewind this, you will hear it. He was setting it up to say that the dive master, Patricio or whoever, they were being negligent because they didn't check their gear. And he made a comment about like, oh, Kaylee or whatever her name is, and John check their regulator to make sure it was open, and they actually did their due diligence. He was setting it up to say that this girl Eloise jumped in the water, regulator was closed, she was too heavy. Remember, they made a comment like she struggled to find her weight, her proper weight. So everything was pointing out that she had too much weight on, forgot to open her regulator, jumped in, and then couldn't go to the surface and drown. That's what it was. To me, that's where the story was going. And then at the end, it's like, if only they would have done a better briefing. Like, what? What are you talking about?
Well, it shows how the professionals are so responsible.
Yeah.
Even when they don't necessarily do anything wrong, you have a huge sense of responsibility for divers that you're guiding, which they teach to be a dive guide or a dive master. It's a big responsibility, and frankly, they're not paid very much for such a huge level of responsibility. So in the end, if something happens to somebody in your group and you're a dive professional, they're probably going to start pointing the finger to you. It's tough.
It's a tough business, and they don't make a whole
is.
lot of money. That's why there's this saying, it's like, if you want to become a millionaire in the scuba industry, make a career in scuba and become a millionaire, you have to start as a billionaire, because you're going to invest so much money in gear and training and all of that, and then you're going to make nothing. Now, I think that if I was to talk about things that could have prevented this tragedy, maybe nothing could have, but if there was something that could have prevented this tragedy, I think would have been to dive in pairs, have a buddy. As of now, I haven't heard who was Eloise's buddy. Who
But
was
they
it?
may
Was
have.
it
They may have.
Patricia? Was it like?
Yeah.
But the briefing, I don't think. I mean, it would have to be super egregious to do a briefing so poor that would cause somebody to die, to be honest. But the fact that she didn't have a buddy that was trying to help her maybe wouldn't have made a difference at all. Maybe two people would have died. Maybe it would have been worse. But having a buddy, go together in pairs, stay together, I think that to me is more important than a more detailed briefing, personally.
You know how I feel about diving with a buddy.
Right.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Well, let's see if they talk about what
The
happened.
90-foot limit, which Jamie instructed them not to go past because of the possible strong current. We would like to thank you for watching this video.
So
if
we
you enjoyed watching,
don't know.
take a dive on the like and subscribe.
All right. Yeah. I mean, terrible that Eloise lost her life on a dive. Was it
sure
preventable? I wish we knew more. Like,
Well,
they did
people-
an autopsy and she had a heart attack.
People
Okay,
are going to
well,
comment on that. People are going to look it up, and it shows you we don't. They're going to comment, and we're going to find out. I'm curious, because right now, I would say it feels like she just got
Standard.
super narked
Yeah.
and just lost her ability to think. That's what it feels like to me.
Well, everything about the dive up until that point was standard. It was like they did a briefing with a whiteboard. We went on this little pangas. We jumped in the water at the same time. There was current. We were going to stay for an hour. Like, everything seemed standard. And if I had to guess, after they pulled Eloise's body and they took it or whatever, if this trip continued, I don't know if they just call off the trip. Like, what's the standard in these situations? So I don't think Eloise was the first diver who died in the Galapagos or the last. So is the standard operating procedure to just continue with the trip? I mean, seems to be like the very first dive of a week-long liveaboard.
Well, I have been on a liveaboard
Yeah.
where a wife came up with her husband and was dead on arrival at the surface.
Right.
And they revived her on the boat in that case, and then they took them and got them off, and the trip continued.
The trip continued. So that's what I'm saying. I believe that this trip probably continued, and I assume that every briefing and dive going forward that week was exactly like this one. Briefing on a whiteboard. Let's get on the pangas. Let's go down. Maybe there was more emphasis on, guys, stick together. Like, stick together. And perhaps there were some people that are like, I am out. Like, I don't feel comfortable doing
it's
this.
pretty tough.
That's understandable. But I didn't see anything with the way they did this dive, personally. Just with the facts they presented. Maybe there's some stuff we don't know. But the fact that they were going to stick to 90 and then they went a little deeper, I mean, I've done that I don't know how many times. How many times have you done it where, like, guys, let's stay around 60, and next thing you know, you're at 72, like, oh, and you go a little bit higher.
That
Like,
happens, but
it happens a lot.
But it's tricky in the Galapagos. It's definitely strong currents.
Yeah.
And if you drop down, it can get pretty deep. And I mean, gosh, if they're on air, I don't know if she was. Seems like she was on air at 150 or 160. Boy, I'm talking for myself. I know some of you say you get used to it and can handle it. I can't.
Superhumans, yeah.
I'm not superhuman. I would be narked bad, really bad. I would have to probably say, Gus, I'm just like, man, I'm out of it. Like, we got to go up.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
maybe that happened to her.
Absolutely. And there are, again, a ton of incidents like this that happen on dive trips. These are, again, it's not common, but it does happen. And we reacted to one of these in, what is it? What's the name of it? Fakurama? Fakurama? I don't remember.
Fakurama? Mama?
Fukurama? I don't remember the name,
Fakurama?
but I'm going to leave it right here. It was a cool video.
I don't think it was called Fuck Around, but I could be wrong. Bye, everybody.